Welcome into the Bison Overtime Show. I'm Ethan Ibach alongside Peter Avelka, and as you guys saw from that intro, Peter, we are fixing college football today.
Yep, and unfortunately, Grant will not be able to join us this week. He has some business to attend to. But first, we're going to get into some NDSU basketball news.
Yep.
Molly Lenz is retiring from basketball, and she'll be using a post-grad year to get her education right.
Yep.
Amelia Hobson has entered the portal, and Damari Wheeler-Thomas has signed with Boise State. I believe it was a day ago because the women's and men's transfer portal opened up.
Yeah, and it's rumored, according to Hot Mike, he made $700K, so a big step up in money for him. But the Bison surprisingly lost another two guys, Riley Saunders and Dom Clay. Dom Clay, somebody that everyone thought really highly of. Everyone thought he was going to probably fill that Trayson Anderson role, is what we kind of thought, and be that redshirt freshman that has a big year. But both of them are in the portal. My question to you, Peter, is how sustainable is this to lose your entire roster every year?
So we've kind of been accustomed to NDSU losing the 7 to 8 to 9 range players.
Yep.
But once that number hits double digits, it's really questionable, and it's going to be like, do the fans really want to come back and see a product where it's like, who's starting for the team? And another aspect is, can Andy Stefanowicz kind of lead this team back to where it was?
Yeah.
But on the women's side, they're looking just fine. They just have to bring in a few transfers, but they're really going to miss Hobson for her lengthiness, being that 6'3" that can shoot the ball. But there's some times during the year where you just wish she kind of stepped up a little bit more and shot the ball more efficiently.
Yeah, it's interesting because like you mentioned Andy Stefanowicz. It's like, if guys stick around for 4 years, they become legends at the school nowadays, because it's like that just doesn't happen anymore. Even guys like Damari Wheeler-Thomas and Feddersen, they're only here for 3 years. But it's interesting to see how long does Dave Richmond coach, because he's not old. He's he's young for a coach, but it's like how long does he sustain getting guys out of the portal so often?
And how often is he going to get frustrated with the collective on how, yes, we understand that football runs everything at NDSU, but it's more of how much money are they actually putting into basketball for two Summit League championships, and having a date to the dance. So, no, I mean, it's really going to be questionable to see what happens, but if Dave would have left, he probably would have already left.
Yeah, I believe you're right on that. And speaking of the NCAA tournament, the Final Four just wrapped up. UConn and Michigan went at it in the national championship. But first, UConn beat Illinois. You got that hot take, right? They won 71-62. Michigan completely overmatched Arizona 91-73. Michigan takes it home 69-63. It felt like a game where if Dan Hurley pulls this one off, he's officially a college basketball legend, because they were completely overmatched, and they still made it a 6-point game in the end.
Yeah, I'm going over this with UConn. UConn's experience really helped them in the Illinois game. Yeah. But I understand what you were talking about, how the Arizona-Michigan game, that could have been the national championship. But in actuality, it wasn't, because Arizona just didn't show up, and they're kind of overwhelmed by Michigan's size. When you have a day who's 7'4", 7'3", you have EXL, who's 6'9", 6'10"-ish, another 6'10" player. And then the guard play. I mean, Elliot Cadeau brought home the NCAA tournament MVP for his performance. Not his shooting stats, but the way he was able to distribute the rock. So, props to Michigan, and I do not know how we did not see that Michigan was going to make it. And it's shocking on us, because we didn't have Michigan in our Final Four.
Yeah, you got to pick some upsets where you can get them. But yeah, I do agree. I think Michigan was the clear best team all year. But kind of recapping some of the best March Madness moments. Chase Johnson just turned into Jack Golke, and High Point beat Wisconsin. This is the first round. Siena is this close to knocking off Duke. That John Shire might not have a job today if that happened. He's already in kind of a hot seat. But VCU knocked off North Carolina. I believe we got that one right. Hubert Davis got fired about a week later. And then St. Louis blew out Georgia. First round is always kind of the best week, because it's like that's when the upsets happen. That's when you see these Cinderella runs, which don't really exist anymore. But I think my favorite is Chase Johnston in that High Point run.
I mean, we can just flash back to the opportunity where he hit that deep three from the logo to send them home. Siena, if they would have had two more, if they would have played some of their bench pieces, who knows what that game could have turned out to be. The Caleb Wilson, it's kind of interesting, because if they have Caleb Wilson, they're probably winning that game. And then St. Louis, we kind of understood that St. Louis was just that dominant with that offense. And plus, it was more of a home game because I believe St. Louis, it was held in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And so you kind of understood that in Georgia's is not a great tournament team. They're the middle of the barrel in the SEC. But for the second round, it was the Hurley versus Chesney shenanigans. The Iowa defeated Florida, which I don't know how people could have saw that coming.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt almost hits a half quarter to beat Nebraska, and that Nebraska team that was one of the most tightly contested games this year. And then Texas upset Gonzaga, which it was a very interesting game, but it's just the injuries. I think it's just injuries really hurt a team in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think it was fun watching UConn and UCLA just because, Hurley and Chesney are like two of the most fiery coaches out there. And then obviously the Vanderbilt, I mean, if he hits that, it was probably more than a half quarter, if we're being honest. It was like probably 10 feet from half court, and he's almost made that. Iowa, Florida really reminded me of UConn losing in the second round last year. You're the defending champ, and you lose to a team you probably shouldn't have. Texas, everyone's called them a Cinderella. You're not a Cinderella if you're a Texas Longhorn. I'm sorry to break it to you.
Anytime you're an 11 seed, and that first four matchup where you're basically an NCAA tournament team if you're an 11 seed, like you're not and you have an NIL amount that not a lot of mid-majors have, but you are not a Cinderella.
Yeah, and then so moving to the Sweet 16, Duke and St. John's. I mean, Rick Pitino, not going to be his last game because he's coming back, but anytime Rick Pitino's in the NCAA tournament, you're watching. And then Dan Hurley versus Tom Izzo. I mean, talk about the coaching matchups in this tournament. There were some really great ones. And I guess Iowa and Nebraska is a basketball rivalry now, not just a football one. And then Purdue and Texas had a pretty good thriller. I think the Sweet 16, that's kind of like the divisional round in the NFL. It's like you got the best teams left. There's a few amount of games left. It's one of the best rounds for me. But yeah, what was your favorite of this part?
And it kind of floors me that St. John's was a 5th seed.
Yeah.
When they crushed UConn in the Big East tournament. So that 5 seed, it does a lot of injustice to it. The Hurley versus Izzo. I mean, we were betting on which coach was a technical first, but I believe that none of them got a technical. That Nebraska-Iowa game, that was a pleasure to watch. I mean, not those two passionate fan bases, that collaboration, that was just unmatched. And it felt like a Big Ten football rivalry game. Yeah. How loud it was in there, and then that Purdue versus Texas. I really enjoyed watching Purdue this year. That senior leadership was just off the charts. I was rooting for them, but congrats to those guys for staying there 4 years and just being known as the guys that stayed. Now for the Elite Eight, it pains me to say this. I'm not a Duke fan or any of that nature. John Shire's choke job versus UConn, and thank you for the meme. That is one of my favorite memes of the tournament. And then Michigan dominating Tennessee. That was not a challenge at all, but that Duke game, they were up 19, Ethan?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's what we have in here. It was a choke job, and that was kind of the only really big-time, close game in the Elite Eight. It's such a fun round to watch because it's a trip to the Final Four on the line, and UConn, I don't think they were one of the 4 best teams all year, and they ended up beating the team that was probably they were the number 1 overall team, but it was just like, that's one of those moments where you look back, it's like Virginia and Furman, that kind of game when they threw that ball away, and then, the Villanova buzzer beater in 16, it's like those are the kind of moments we're going to come back and look on. I think this is one of those that we're going to look back on, one of the best moments.
And as a basketball connoisseur, in my head, I'm like, why didn't he jump stop? Why didn't he pivot? Why did you throw a jump pass? But at the end of the day, we will probably see Caden Boozer back for the Blue Devils. And I was just astonished because that region, that might have been one of the hardest regions I've seen. And so, you have Michigan State, UConn, St. John's, and Duke, all 4 legendary coaches. And to add insult to injury, it's a moment of how does this happen?
You're 1 second you're inbounding the ball and you got the lead with 10 seconds left, and then all of a sudden UConn's moving on to the Final Four. But it's crazy stuff. And then the Final Four, I don't know if I say it was underwhelming because it was a blowout, and then UConn kind of just handled Illinois. But we kind of recapped that already. The Final Four is always fun to watch, and it helps that we had a good national championship game.
Yeah, and we're going to go into that national championship, and that national championship, that was one of the most physical games of basketball. I have watched, and I'm glad that UConn, like Dan Hurley, really stepped it into those guys and be like, hey, they will not out physical us, and how UConn really relied on the 3-point shooting.
Yeah.
But it's kind of ironic in basketball that Michigan hit the game-sealing 3-pointer, even though they were probably, I believe they were 1 for 14 or something of that nature. They didn't even, I believe they didn't even make 5 3-pointers, and they are the ones that hit the game winner to kind of not dethrone UConn, but I just want to give a round of applause for Dan Hurley. I mean, 3 Final Fours in 4 years.
Crazy stuff.
And in this era too.
Yeah.
Just remarkable.
Yeah, UConn's not going anywhere. They'll be back, I'm sure. But we're going to transition into some news that came across this weekend. It was Trump's executive order, which he signed, before we give anything off here, it means nothing because I think Congress or something has to pass it too. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff it has to go through. It's probably not going to happen, but some of the rules that he had in place. So it's what a lot of coaches have talked about. 5 years to play 5 seasons. So no injury red shirts, no red shirts at all. If you happen to play 5 seasons without getting hurt or anything, you get to play 5 years. You're a lucky guy. And then you get 1 free transfer. So you could go to NDSU. If you don't like it, you transfer to Oklahoma, whatever you want to go. The only time you can transfer other than that is if you graduate college, which would obviously mean probably 4 years, so you're a grad transfer. Or if your coach leaves, I think you can I believe in there it said the coach could leave. And then otherwise you have to sit out a season. And that goes back to what Cam Newton did when he left Florida to go to Auburn. He had to play JUCO a year in between. Andrew Van Ginkel, we saw him come to Fargo. He went from South Dakota to a JUCO to Wisconsin. So that's the eligibility thing. I think what sticks out to me is getting rid of those injury red shirts and the red shirts as a whole, because you can't be 25 and playing with 20-year-olds. You just can't.
Yeah, and it's kind of a concern when you have 26-year-olds playing against 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
And it's like someone could get, like, I understand it is a men's sport, but players get injured all the time, but a 26-year-old versus an 18-year-old, that could bring some harm to some injuries.
Yeah.
Some other points that he added were collectives from collectives. So we're talking of NIL collectives, meaning that donors and like high-powered donors pool money in there for the school to use. Those will not be allowed. They will be third-party fans, and team makers are banned if you opt into the house settlement and rev sharing.
Yeah.
Opting out of the house settlement, we do not know what that would bring.
No.
But we expect that a lot of those teams would end up opting into it. And to summarize this all, basically pay-for-play is banned.
Yeah.
Meaning that you cannot pay athletes just to play. It has to be through endorsement deals or rev sharing. Kind of like a lot of the endorsement deals we see here, like especially with Cam Miller and the mattress firms and everything of that nature. So, and lastly, no federal funds can be used to pay athletes. So when a public university like NDSU, UND, University of Minnesota, the funds that they get from the government, that cannot be used for NIL.
Yeah, I think, covering on the NIL stuff, it's like if a regular student is paying to go to college, I don't think that money should be going towards athletes, so I agree with a lot. I agree with a lot of the stuff that President Trump's trying to do here, but the issue is like NIL's never going to go away. You're like college kids get paid now, it's just how it is. But I think this is a good start of a mixture between what college athletics was before 2019 when NIL was kind of created and then to what it is now, because it's pretty clear that what we're doing right now is not sustainable. It needs to change. But I think I want to highlight what you have in here, that there needs to be penalties. They need to enforce something. I don't care what the rule is. If you're going to allow them to pay as much as they want, but you don't have tampering. Like, just an example, you got to enforce the rules. The NCAA has done an awful job of that the last 4 years.
To add to your point, the only thing I tend to disagree with is the collectives parts.
Yeah.
And what happens if a team doesn't go into the house settlement? But it's a start. And we don't know if this is a 2-year experiment or anything of that nature, but an analogy I want to use is it's for this. It's like when you're going camping and your sleeping bag is too big for your bag.
Yeah.
It's like you kind of put too much out before you can put it all back in. And so that's kind of my camping analogy with that.
Yeah, so now we're going to move into what you all are watching for. The title is We're Fixing College Football, so we're going to fix it. But for conference realignment is what we're first going to go through. And first, teams that we have moving up from FBS or FCS to FBS. We have all 4 Dakotas. Now, whether UND and USD would want to do this, debatable. I think the other ones, I think we can agree on, eventually are going to make that move someday. South Dakota State's going to move up someday, whether it's 5 years, 10 years. Tarleton is going to, I think if you told me 2028, they'll be up by then. UC Davis, they're basically already going to be up. They're in Olympic sports. Montana State gets a little hairy because they have to go together. There's something with the federal funds or something. I don't know the rule for sure, so I'm not going to comment on that. But this is who we have moving up. These are teams that we think could compete. Also not listed on here, Idaho. We didn't list them because they already were FBS. They dropped down because they had a lot of struggles. But, USD and UND is the big one for me that it's I don't know if they'd want to, but that's what we have for FCS to FBS.
Yeah, and going into the South Dakota UND aspect of it, it's relatively a small campus town.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if they keep saving up money and everything of that nature, they'd be able to move up, because it'd be very interesting because, say South Dakota State and the Montana and UC Davis and Tarleton State move up, kind of leaves them in the dust. And it's just at that point, will FCS be competitive anymore?
No, I don't think so.
And it's kind of in that realm of being oh, sweet, UND and USD, you guys are going to play Illinois State and all of that. And in Youngstown State, it's that's how, that just doesn't sound appetizing. But these moves all sound appetizing for both teams, for the money aspect and the conference, because you get to keep those rivals.
Yep.
And you get to play on sometimes national television, depending on your record. But moving on to the new ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, we're gonna go So it'll be a lot of the same ACC schools, but it's gonna be Pittsburgh, and we'll go from top of the left all the way down the row. Pittsburgh Panthers, Clemson Tigers, South Carolina from the SEC, Florida State, the University of Miami, Georgia Tech, UNC, Duke, Virginia Tech, Virginia, newcomer, Cincinnati, and Louisville. And we kind of went over this, but we do have some favorites. Ibach, do you have a favorite in here?
Yeah, I think if this was this year, it'd have to be Miami. I mean, they're building a program that's. I mean, their favorite saying is Miami's back, and these are all basically ACC teams except Cincinnati's in the Big 12. They shouldn't be. South Carolina's in the SEC again. Why are they in the SEC? Yes. Geography doesn't matter. But some bullet points I want to go over before we release some of these other conferences. So there's going to be 14 conferences total, which more than we got right now. 9 to 12 teams about in each one. We want to keep a lower number so that you play everybody about. And the biggest one, if you have a number in your conference name, the Pac-12, the Big 10, that's how many teams are in your conference. We're not going to have the Big 10 and have 18 teams. That's just not how we're going to do it. And geography matters. So, in the ACC, I think you see that. And I think the biggest thing here is the balance. There isn't a team that's going to struggle big time. You might say Virginia. Well, they were in the ACC championship last year, but that's what I got in the ACC.
And the good thing about the ACC and this ACC is a lot of those rivalries stay. I mean, Florida State and Miami. Then you add South Carolina into the mix. Then against Clemson, and then you always have the UNC Duke rivalry, and then one of my favorite underrated rivalries of all time, the Virginia Tech Virginia rivalry, which has been a struggle for it to be competitive, and you have tons of dark horses in this conference, such as Georgia Tech and Louisville.
Yeah, and then moving to a conference, we're bringing back the Atlantic 10. This is a basketball conference, basically, but I think we can both agree this would be considered a G6 type of conference. This is not a power conference. So you got, by the way, the logos in this conference, immaculate. But we got, starting up from the top left here, you got Central Florida, you got South Florida, Wake Forest, Charlotte, NC State, Liberty, Buffalo, UConn, UMass, and Delaware. So every team that's in this was not in the Atlantic 10 before, we're doing this now. It's all new teams. They'd all have to form new rivalries and whatever. But I think the biggest thing here is, these are all teams that are on the East Coast. Delaware is obviously more in the Northeast, and the Florida teams are in the Southeast, but it's East Coast. I mean, it's the Atlantic, keyword Atlantic 10, and there's 10 teams. So I think my favorite, if you're asking me, is South Florida probably. That might be my dark horse to make the CFP in real life this year, but that's what I got on the Atlantic 10.
Yeah, for my pick, I have NC State. They have a well-established coach. But I think I like this conference because IBOC, it's so unique.
Yes.
I mean, you have a Big 12 team, you have an ACC team, you have an AAC team, Independence, a MAC, and a CUSA. So there is so much variety in here, but I really appreciate like I said, my favorite's NC State, but Wake Forest is in there. And Liberty is a super solid team.
Malik Willis,
and then like you said, you have South Florida, who was in the running for a G6 bid last year. So there's so much variety, and who knows? Maybe they could be a 2-seed bid. But I love this. I think this conference is so unique, and then just like all the different away stadiums. I mean, imagine NC State traveling to Delaware.
That'd be awesome.
Joe Flacco's home. Now the next conference that we're going to go over is the Big Ten. All these teams are the same in the Big Ten. They only kicked a few out, but from the top left, we have Illinois, national champions Michigan, Michigan State, University of Minnesota, Ohio State, Northwestern, Purdue, Wisconsin, the Indiana Hoosiers, and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Ibach, tell me your favorite and why.
I think it's obviously Ohio State. Indiana obviously coming off the national title, but this is the big thing here. This is what the Big Ten was meant to be. We're not going to have teams going from California up to Rutgers. Like, that just doesn't make sense for regionalization, and these are all Midwest teams. Minnesota should be the furthest team west in this conference, and that's how it is in this. And I just think that this would be unique in terms of everybody would play everybody, and it'd be back to the way it was in the old days, obviously before we were born, but that's how it was.
And the other thing about this is travel's A-okay in this region.
Minimal.
I mean, you said Minnesota's the farthest trip, but like you're not gonna have to fly. You're not gonna have to fly in two different time zones from Oregon to Rutgers, New Jersey. You know what I mean? All of that realm. So I believe that this conference is already so established that we really don't need to go over it.
Yeah, so moving to a conference, well, they were represented last night in the national title game. It's the Big East. Big East had football up until, I believe, 2015-ish.
Yes.
I don't know for sure, but we're putting Notre Dame in a conference. So they have not been in a conference before. They've always been independent. West Virginia is going to be in there, Penn State, Syracuse, Army, Navy, Maryland, Rutgers, Temple, and Boston College. I think what sticks out to me in this one is a lot of like tough, hard-nosed football teams. A lot of teams that are in the same general area. I think my favorite obviously is going to be either Notre Dame or Penn State. Notre Dame right now. And again, 10 teams. Everybody plays everybody. That's the big thing.
Yeah, and this would make perfect sense because, yes, I'm a Notre Dame fan, but in this reality, I could definitely see if they were forced to join a conference of this nature, that the Big East would kind of fit them in over the Big Ten, because the Big Ten is already established and all of that nature. But yet, obviously, my favorite would be Notre Dame in this bit. But at the end of the day, like West Virginia, Rich Rodriguez, he's been proven track record there. Penn State with Matt Campbell, and bringing basically it is basically the Iowa State Nittany Lions. Syracuse with Fran, like. They've been struggling, but once again, it's a prominent brand. You got the Army, you got the service schools with Army and Navy, and then you also get three Big Ten teams with Maryland and Rutgers. Then you have a huge market in Philadelphia with Temple, and then you also have Boston College with Bill O'Brien. So hopefully he stirs the ship good in that way. But no, I love the idea of this, and could you imagine a Penn State Notre Dame whiteout game?
Yeah, that'd be absolutely electric. And you talk about Temple. It's like that's a team that hasn't been good in football in a long time. I mean, we know Quincy Patterson was the quarterback here for a few games and went there the next year and didn't fare too well. But like that brings in more NIL. If you're talking about Temple, we're going to be playing with Notre Dame, Penn State, and all these schools. The NIL is going to come up. They would compete. Boston College, they've fallen on tough times. They'll be back. So the next conference we're going to move into here is Conference USA. Now, we're making some changes to this one. We're adding Tarleton State.
Yes.
Seems like a natural fit being down in Texas and around that area. a lot of FCS teams, I must say, that used to be FCS. Missouri State just moved up a couple years ago. Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State, they were an FCS power. Jacksonville State, Bison, going to learn a lot about them in August. UAB, South Alabama, Troy, and Middle Tennessee. I believe almost at least 7 of these schools used to be FCS.
Yes.
That's what sticks out is like the level of competition might be low, but they're all even.
Yeah, they're all even. And a matter of fact, I think you and I both argued that this is probably just a one bid.
Yes.
And it's crazy because they're all going to be fighting for the spot.
Yep.
My favorites in this realm, Jacksonville State and Missouri State, just because with Jacksonville State, they went to a bowl game. They won the bowl game. They had 9, I believe it was 8 or 9 wins, and they very not dominant, but they got the job done. Missouri State, I think they're on the verge of something in this conference. I really think they could take advantage of it.
Yep.
And then with Kennesaw State, because Kennesaw State, believe it or not, they had 10 wins last year.
Yeah.
So they could definitely run away with that conference too. But moving on, we will be transitioning over to the Deep South Conference.
Yep.
The first team out of this conference will be Tulane, Tulsa, Southern Miss, Memphis, SMU, Houston, Arkansas, Arkansas State, TCU, and Texas State. This reminds me a lot of the conference that got dissolved, and if they could bring this back to the Deep South, this could arguably be the most wealthiest conference, that most underrated wealthy conferences, just because of how many players, how many different markets they extend to.
Yeah, I think the one outlier here is obviously Arkansas State. They're not good. They are not good. I think they're in the Sun Belt, I believe. But you talk about, it's like there's so many Texas teams. There's so much money in this. It's like a perfect cross between power conference teams that are kind of middle to low tier to the upper echelon of the G6. Tulane was in the playoff. Memphis was competing for that. Tulsa, they're led by Trey Lamb. They've had a lot of good years. Southern Miss, I mean, they can compete when they want to. Texas State, everything's bigger in Texas.
Yes.
These are all teams that would compete. I think Houston obviously is the team that would be the front runner. Arkansas, I think, would have some really good years in this conference. The big thing is like the regionalizing things. SMU would probably get going too. It's like regionalize things. Teams that are going to get motivated when they have new opponents. I think this would be a really solid conference as we move into Maction.
Oh man, you know what? We're not too fond of the MAC. We just don't think it's one of the best conferences.
Yeah.
But it is very weird that, it's pretty much the same schools.
Yeah, it is.
It's really nothing changed. I mean, we're just bringing back Northern Illinois, but IBUC, I mean, you can go over it, but it's just like pretty much the same old things.
Yeah, this is a bus trip conference. It always has been. Northern Illinois, you guys, we'll see what you got when you come to the Fargo Dome in November, but you belong in the MAC, let's just be honest. And I don't know if I even have a favorite. Western Michigan was really good when PJ Fleck was there. There have been some good Toledo teams. I don't have a lot to say about this conference. There's not a lot to say. It's a bus trip conference.
It's a lot of Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then my favorites are Western Michigan and Miami, Ohio, because Miami, Ohio, they tend to make it tons of times. But yeah, I think Western Michigan is probably the most dominant market. And but the thing about Miami, Ohio is we just saw them in the NCAA tournament, going undefeated in the regular season, and they're pumping millions and millions and millions of dollars into athletics.
Yeah, so we'll move into, our new favorite conference. It's the Mountain West. You will notice there's no NDSU. You'll stay tuned in about 2 slides here. You'll see where they are. But basically the Mountain West is what it used to be. It's Fresno, UNLV, Boise State, San Jose, Nevada, San Diego State, Utah State, UC Davis, one of our FCS up-and-comers, Hawaii, Sacramento State, who just moved up. They should be in the Mountain West with the Bison, but they're in the MAC. We'll see how long that lasts. But basically, Peter, this is all the teams that the Bison are going to be playing, plus we're kicking Boise State, Utah State. We're kicking the good teams back into the Mountain West that belong there. And then UC Davis and Sacramento State, big markets, they're FCS teams. I think this would be a very quality conference.
Yeah, and we're talking about bids. I think this could be a 2-bid conference. And the good thing about this is Sacramento State will not have to pay like a $25 million fee to the MAC. But no, my favorites in here are UNLV, led by Jackson Arnold and Dan Mullen.
Yep.
And then we have Boise State, they're always competitive. I mean, they don't back down to a lot of teams. But I think a sleeper pick here could easily be kind of a San Diego State or a Utah State. But no, and I'm missing one of the most dark horses picks here, Hawaii.
Yeah.
Who are third in the odds right now to win the Mountain West. But this conference makes sense, and this should have never changed.
Yeah, and it's, when we talk about Bison football scheduling, some of these teams that aren't in the Mountain West that are on this list, watch out for some home and homes with them. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if the Bison try to get a game on the blue turf with Boise State. There's some teams in here that would love to see the Bison play as we move into if you like the Pac-12 after dark like we did, you're going to love this conference. This is just the Pac-12.
I mean, this is just the original Pac-12 we're bringing back and shuffling a lot of the teams that we've really missed. I mean, I miss watching ESPN at 9 o'clock, watching a Washington State versus Cal game. But going from the top left all the way down, we have Oregon State, Washington State, California, Cal Berkeley, Stanford, USC, UCLA, Utah, Arizona State, and BYU. This is peak college football.
Yep.
And the coaches in here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's star-studded. You have a lot of rebuilding programs, but you also have those dark horses. You have Dan Lanning. You have Lincoln Riley. You have Jeff Fish. Like, you have all of those amazing coaches, and the recruiting is getting better in that region too.
Yeah, and it's teams that, like Oregon is up and coming for a national title spot year in and year out, and then obviously USC has struggled to get into the CFP, but it's a bunch of teams. You're talking about a 3 to 4 bid league in our playoff format, which we'll reveal in a little bit. But you think of those days when the Pac-12 was represented in the Rose Bowl every year. It was like Christian McCaffrey with Stanford, Sam Darnold with USC, Josh Rosen even. Like this, the quarterbacks in this conference would be immaculate. This would be a gauntlet of a schedule. This would be like the SEC is now as we move into the SEC actually. So basically, it's just what the SEC should be if it was regionalized. All these teams are already in the SEC, no movement there. We got Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Auburn, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, LSU, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Kentucky. Peter, this is basically just, like I said, it's the SEC if they cut down to 10 teams and had to regionalize.
And this is kind of the ones that we argued. This could be a 3 to 4 big conference because, if we're going to go off strength of schedule, all of these guys will be in the top 25 for strength of schedule. My favorite in here is Georgia or LSU because LSU, folks, they have a gauntlet.
Yes.
I mean, we kind of talked about this in our meeting this morning where they faced Clemson in Baton Rouge. And then in week 3, we have the Lane Kiffin Bowl where Lane Kiffin goes back to Ole Miss after his departure. But Georgia brings back Gunnar Stockton. They have Kirby Smart. And I think we're just touching the surface on all these coaches. I mean, Kentucky just poached Will Stein from Oregon. So we'll see how he does. But Kalen DeBoer, John Summerall, Pete Golding, and Lane Kiffin. I cannot forget his name.
Yeah, there's so many good coaches, and the environments on the road would be huge in this. I can't wait to deep dive the SEC in real life in a couple of weeks here for our show, but we're going to move into the best conference of them all.
Give props to iBlock for this name. This name, I was like, what would we name this? But iBlock, take it away.
I got to give a shout out to the Twitter account, the Snow Belt. There's an account that made this logo. Don't know how they made it, probably AI generated, but we got all 4 Dakota schools. We're bringing those rivalries back. Montana State are coming to the Snow Belt. Idaho, you previously were in FBS, you came to FCS, now you're back to FBS, you're in this conference. And then the 3 teams that would be really good right away, Wyoming, Colorado State, and Air Force. This is literally just a bunch of teams from the north and a little bit like the Northwest basically. It's just teams that are in the middle of nowhere. You talk about Laramie, Wyoming. That's in the middle of nowhere. Fargo, some would say, is in the middle of nowhere, even though we got 2 interstates here. But this is a conference that the Bison would compete in right away. It's basically just the top of the FCS with the bottom of the old Mountain West.
This conference for me just feels right looking at it. Because, yes, you have all the Dakota teams, but then you also have some of those lesser-known teams like Idaho, and you have the Montanas, you have the Wyomings, you have the Colorado. It's a lot of those teams where it's like, man, them coming to the Fargo Dome or NDSU going there, it would be so. And we talk about rivalries. All the rivalries would stay.
Yeah.
And we could even form rivalries with a little bit of Wyoming, Colorado State, and because we talk Wyoming and Colorado State, they've kind of been on a downward spiral.
Yeah.
So maybe beating these teams could bring up the recognition a little bit more. And then it's also, on the other hand, it's, hey, South Dakota State, USD, welcome Montana's, welcome to the environment. And
yeah.
I think they would love the environment of FBS because every game matters in this conference in order for placement and seeding. So every game matters, and every game, the attention would be high.
Yeah, and on a side note, it's like a lot of these Dakota fans and Montana fans aren't liking what they're seeing in FBS. They don't want to come up. Well, we saw a Twitter post about a couple days ago where it was the top 25 in 2012 after the Bison won their first title. Little did we know what was to come of 10 titles and what it is this year. We got some HBCUs in there this year. We have, Rhode Island's in the top 5. Illinois State's in the top 5. Yes, they came into the Fargo and they won. They weren't even ranked going into the playoffs. It's you bring back these rivalries. That's the big thing. That's why the Bison are moving up. They're playing Jacksonville State right away, and that's kind of what this conference would kind of renew, is get those rivalries back, some FCS old rivalries as we move into the Southwest Conference. Now, this was a conference back in the day before we were around.
Yes.
But it was dominated by SMU way back when they got caught cheating. This conference is not going to be as strong as what it was. It's basically the bottom of the barrel of Texas. It's UTEP, UTSA, Sam Houston State, North Texas, Rice, Louisiana Tech, Louisiana Monroe, New Mexico, and New Mexico State. So, Peter, this is probably down there with the MAC. This is not a good conference, but we're bringing back the Southwest. The logo is sick. It's vintage. We love it. It's all the teams that are South and aren't good.
Yeah, and you say that, and I totally agree, because it's probably it is a one bid league for sure. And it's probably with the MAC action, you got that that Thursday, Friday games, and then our favorite here is New Mexico, led by Jason Eck.
Yeah, for sure.
And he could run away with the conference in 8 games. I don't see them catching close with anybody. I mean, maybe one of the Texas teams get a crazy donation.
Yeah.
But no, I believe that New Mexico will end up winning it, and Louisiana Tech could probably give them a run for their money.
And that's the thing. There's so much money down in the South with sports and athletics
nice.
that it's like these teams that aren't good, you get some motivation behind them. Like UTEP, they're joining a new conference in real life in the Mountain West. Maybe they get some more money generated by them. Probably not, but.
And say that the coach for North Texas doesn't leave for Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
That it would be a boat race between New Mexico and North Texas.
Yeah, so we're going to move into the Sun Belt. This is not a whole lot of change. We're just regionalizing things a little bit. Got James Madison. Actually, before I read this, we got to shout out these logos. These are some of the best logos in this whole thing. JMU has a great logo here. East Carolina.
Yes.
Florida Atlantic, Florida International, App State, Georgia Southern, Coastal Carolina, Marshall, and Old Dominion. So the Sun Belt already is kind of a lot of teams that moved up from FCS to FBS that were powers back in the day. Basically, all we did was regionalize it, and I think JMU is still the top team here. Yeah,
like you said, I think JMU runs away with it. I mean, Appalachia could give them some run for their money.
Yeah.
But JMU, the Dukes, they're gonna run with it. But the one thing I'm skeptical about is Billy Napier. Leading it now. I mean, it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens, because maybe he runs the program into the dirt. Maybe he does. All I know is his recruiting goes all the way up, but the production on the field is kind of like this. But yeah, no, I love. Like you said, on the screen, the logos are immaculate.
Yes.
I mean, it's a 2020. It's like a 2000 vibe, but I love it.
Yeah, so we're gonna move into Peter, this might be the best conference of them all when we talk about strength.
I love this conference because Nebraska back in the Big 12.
Yep.
Oh, it's amazing. You got Nebraska, you got Colorado, Iowa State, Kansas State, two big rivalry teams. Then you have Texas Tech, Missouri, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas, and Texas A&M. I talked about you. This could be a 3-4 bid league because the amount of oil money that Texas Tech pumps into their teams, Nebraska, they are dying for some kind of success. Oklahoma just made a college football playoff appearance, and they have John Mateer back under center. Yeah. You have Arch Manning in the conference, and you have Marcel Reese for Texas A&M. Every game feels like a movie.
Yeah, and it's a conference. I honestly am going to have a hot take here. I think out of all these conferences, this would be the strongest. The SEC is deep in our model here. The Big Ten's pretty deep. This is the deepest one in the rivalries. I mean, when I was in Boulder, Colorado for the NDSU Colorado game, there were those Colorado fans, they hate Nebraska, and they're not even in the same conference anymore. So this would bring that back. And, Kansas State, the rivalries are endless. And
another aspect is, yes, I mentioned all those players, but even going across the top, you have Matt Rule, Deion Sanders, Jimmy Rogers.
Yeah.
You have who
would have been Chris Kleiman if he didn't retire.
You have the Texas A&M offensive coordinator now in your I believe his name is Colin Klein. Colin Klein is leading the Wildcats. You have the Texas Tech coach who has been coaching, but it's kind of easy to do with all the money they generate. You have the Missouri coach. You have
Sarkisian's in there.
Yeah, you have Sarkisian. You have Mike Elko.
Yep.
And then you also have the Oklahoma coach.
Brent Venable.
Yes, thank you, Brent Venable, and he has proven himself.
Yeah.
So the Big 12, it's arguably my favorite, and all these games are going to be must-watch TV.
Yeah, so to recap, I know that was a lot, 14 conferences. We're going to recap this with a color-coded map, as you see behind me, and we'll put it on the screen when we can. You notice something, Peter? It's regionalized. That's all we ask.
And I think it's oddly satisfying that you can look at a map, and it's kind of like NFL divisions. You can look at a map and be like, I wonder what teams make sense in this conference. And you look at the map, it's like, okay. And if you look at more in detail, a lot of these trips, they're bus trips.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Texas Alone, those are bus trips.
Yeah, the furthest west you got to go if you're in Conference USA is midway through New Mexico, and then you go to Louisiana. That's probably 8 hours, but that's like, compared to what we're doing now, we're going across the country for conference games. Makes zero sense, but you can kind of tell here, like when we said that no man's land here in the Snow Belt Conference, look at that gap between Fargo and Montana. Fargo and Montana right next to each other, huge gap between the colleges.
And I look at the Big Ten too. It's like the Big Ten, the bus. There's no New Jersey. There's no Oregon. There's no California.
Yeah, exactly.
And I look at Florida too. It's like all those, and all the Carolinas, all those teams make sense in that conference. So I am, and you got the loner Hawaii, but no, it does make total sense that this is how conference realignment should be.
Yeah, and you talk about money spending money on plane trips is not cheap. And everything's about money now. Well, we just saved you millions of dollars. So that's what we got for conference realignment. We're going to move into the regular season format now. But the first thing we got to do is say we are eliminating conference championships. We love them. They're fun to play. But now that the playoffs are here and we're not doing a 4-team playoffs, they have no meaning now. It's an advantage for teams that don't play in them now. I think that's basically the first thing we got to check off here. 12-game season, 8 conference games. No matter the conference, you have 8 conference games. So if you have 9 teams, you'll play everybody. If you have 10, you leave one off. 4 non-conference games as usual. You only get 1 bye week. Now we know the Bison are eligible for 2 bye weeks this year as they play at Hawaii. That's eliminated. We already said conference championship games are no more. The biggest thing here, week 0 is week 1.
Yes.
The last weekend of August is week 1. And then you play through Thanksgiving weekend. And Peter, Thanksgiving weekend, that's when we're doing those rivalry games.
I am so excited for it. I believe this is how the regular season should go. And Ethan and I will discuss about a lot of the bowl games. But first, there will be no more Ireland trips for some of these teams,
No.
unless you want to start a little bit earlier. But yeah, it's that last weekend of August is when college football starts, and then like you said, that it's going to be really tacky. But week 13 is going to be those Friday and Saturday games.
Yeah.
Where you have the Egg Bowl and you have a majority of, say, Notre Dame, USC, you have Michigan, Ohio State, you got South Carolina, Clemson. You have all of those insane rivalries. And with the conferences, they make it even better because you're able to be like, hey, that makes a lot more sense now. It's not like an SEC where it's a cupcake in week 12.
Yeah, for sure. And fall camp is going to be a question. I think that would be pushed to maybe the last week of July.
Yes.
We're starting earlier and earlier. It's whatever. Just start when you have to. Last weekend of August, we're starting college football. That's going to bring us into our postseason format, what we've got. If you're an FCS fan, you're going to recognize this part. It's 24 teams, 14 auto bids, 11 at-larges. But one big difference, we're seeding all the teams 1 through 24. Yes. So the top 8 seeds get a bye. The 9 through 24, they're going to play each other based on seeding matchups because we know the CFP loves to make it based on seeding. So 9 versus 24, 10 versus 23, you can do the math on your own there. The biggest thing, you talked about bowl sites.
Yes.
There will be home games for every top 16 seed. So the first round, the 9 through 16 hosts, and then the top 8 seeds host the second round. Then we got bowl sites. So you get to read off the bowl sites for quarterfinals and beyond.
So I kind of brought this idea. So we're going to have all NY6 bowls, but we're adding the world famous Pop-Tart Bowl.
Yes.
And so with the playoff format, that as Ethan touched on, that round 1 of playoffs and the round 2 of playoffs, they will be home sites. But the quarterfinals will be that third week of December with the bowls being the Fiesta Bowl, the Peach Bowl, the Orange Bowl, and the Pop-Tart Bowl. The semifinals will be the fourth week of December. And that will be the Cotton Bowl, held at AT&T Stadium like usual, and the Sugar Bowl, held at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in New Orleans. But, college fans, rejoice. The national championship will be the first week of January. And guess what? It's always at the Rose Bowl.
Always.
And you'd be like, oh, well, it should be the college football, it should be the finale, it should just be the college football championship. No, the Rose Bowl has the best reputation around in bowl season. A lot of people clam to their TVs and be like, Saturday we're watching the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
And so many memories are gathered through here. And especially, we've had a couple of blowouts in the last 2 years, but with a national championship, you cannot predict a lot when push comes to shove in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
And then to add on to this, we haven't touched on this yet, but the ensuing day, it's kind of like how in college basketball, the transfer portal works now. 24 hours after the national championship, that's when the transfer portal opens up and it opens at 5 p.m. Central Time. You're probably like, Peter, why is it 5 p.m. Central Time? Well, on the Pacific Coast, it's 3 p.m. And on the Eastern Coast, it is 6.
It'd be 6, yeah.
It'd be 6 p.m. And so it's a reasonable amount of time, besides I'm sorry, but it's the amount of time to negotiate and talk to agents and all of that nature. Ibuck, what do you take away in the 4 weeks of the playoffs?
Well, the big thing is when we talked about this morning, Texas Tech and Oregon this year. Dan Lanning even admitted that game should have been played at Texas Tech, but you're playing it in Miami in the morning. It's just a weird environment. The stadium isn't full. I would much rather see Oregon going on the road to Texas Tech in a packed environment for a spot in the semifinal, and that's what we have here. And you're playing back-to-back weeks. In the FCS, the Bison have gotten used to. You're playing 3 weeks in a row, and then you're in the national championship. You probably get a week in between there, but that's how football is made. You're not supposed to take 3 weeks in between each game. That's what I mainly have taken away here, and we're actually going to show the bracket of what we have cooked up here. Kind of a visual. It's we mentioned the top 8 seeds get a bye. So if you're the 1 seed, you're playing the winner of the 16 and the 17 seeds. So a lot of seeds in this, but as you can see, as the bowl games that you mentioned, Peter, you get a first-round game at home. Like if you're the Bison, you're lucky enough to get a top 16. You play at home, then you go on the road. Obviously, you're probably not getting past there, but then it's bowl sites from there on out, and that's what they want. They want bowls. They want money. Biggest thing there is getting the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl, you start in the evening, and then the sun's going down in the second half. It's a great environment. That's what I got.
And something from this national championship bracket that we have. Look at the seeds. All those games would be competitive.
Yes.
The 16-17 seed would be amazing. Mm-hmm. And then you have the 12 versus the 21st seed versus that 5 seed. Just quite remarkable. And then if we're going to go to like the March Madness side of it, you have the 23 versus 10 matchup. And that is the 7 seed versus 10 seed is one of the best matchups in March Madness you can have.
Yeah.
But I think this bracket is honestly perfect because when you look at it, it's, hey, we're going to play all these games. And I think some coaches would rather prefer it where you play that first week of January compared to next year when we're playing college football still dang near close to February on January 25th, 2027. So it's just a big jump, and we're getting rid of those 2-week buys that they have.
Yeah, and part of getting rid of those buys is we mentioned the conference titles are gone, which that does leave a little wiggle room for some teams because if you don't win your conference, you're not in. But the criteria we have is head-to-head records, your conference finishes, which matters a ton, CFP ranking. We're eliminating the CFP shows.
No more.
We'll get into that a bit, but we can't be revealing that Notre Dame is above one team and then put them behind them randomly. It's like, let's just eliminate that, have one show at the end of the year, reveal the bracket. Strength of schedule is going to be huge. So I think bringing back strength of schedule is something that will incentivize. Like Texas is never going to schedule Ohio State ever again because they think it's because that's why they didn't get in. It's because they lost to Billy Napier. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but get into the Tuesday show thing.
So the Tuesday show thing, we are getting rid of that, and we're getting rid of the interviews with the commissioner because what I liked about this year's NCAA reveal show is that they talked about why they placed this team, and it was quick and efficient to show this side of the bracket and the other side of the bracket, but now it's like get rid of that Tuesday show, and instead they'll sit in a room, and then Sunday they'll go ahead and they'll just put it out there like in the AP poll. They'll be like, "Yep, we're gonna put these teams here," and as we're gonna talk and as we kind of go into it, there will be no middlemen. Middlemen. Sorry. Each AD will have their say and their picks on what should happen, and the commissioner head will have 2 years of reign. Mm-hmm. And then every 2 years, a new commissioner gets into the realm of it, so that there's no Greg Sankey, there's no Petito, there's no, and even for other conferences, there's no being like, hey, we lobbying for their own team. No, it's the ADs will sit down and discuss their heavy hitters in their conferences, and they'll discuss and they'll put out a 1 through 24 list to see who makes it. Yeah, so we got through the big grind of things, but kind of the thing that's the sticky topic is the portal eligibility and NIL. So we're going to start with our regulating the transfer portal and eligibility. First of all, we're going to agree with President Trump. You get one free transfer. So if you play a year, whatever, you get one free transfer. You start with 4 years of eligibility of playing. So we're not doing 5 years, seasons of play 5 years. We're going to go back to the way it was in about 2017, we'll say. Red shirts is if you dress, you're not redshirting. You cannot dress, otherwise you don't get your year back. A lot like Seth Wilson, if Bison fans remember Seth Wilson, running back here, dealt with a lot of injuries, but he had to get his red shirt pulled mid-season. He didn't play 4 games, but he still had to pull his red shirt. Medical red shirts are going to be very strict. So you can't play 9 games, get hurt, and then come back the next year. It's going to be probably the 4-game area there, like Nick DeLuca in 2016. Yep. He came back in 17. Something that's going to come up though, coaches, like if they think they don't need this guy this year and they want him to come back, the fake injury thing. That's the thing that NCAA needs to crack down on is regulating things, making rules and consequences. So getting into the transfer part of things, you can only transfer if, we already said you get one free transfer with no rules, no penalty. If you graduate college or have 90 credits, which is equivalent to 4 years of school and 4 years of school, play 4 seasons at one location, or if the head coach takes another job, retires, or gets fired. That's what we got in the transfer portal. Yeah, and the one thing I will touch upon is, so the red shirt, we kind of disagreed about this, but as avid sports debaters, but like the 4-game rule, we're kind of skeptical. I'm skeptical about it because sometimes teams they experience like injuries earlier and depth and everything, but I can see why that 9 games is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see 8. I'm all right with 4 games, and then if they play if they have a snap in the 5th game, that's your red shirt. That's gone.
Yep.
I agree with the medical red shirts. But yes, 1 free transfer, and you graduate or have 120 credits. Yeah, because this 120 credit, the 90 to 120 credit rule, it's almost like you've been at that one program in that one school for so long that hey, it's okay if you want to transfer, or we're very glad for your services the last 2 to 3 years. Mm-hmm. And for example, like in a mid-major case like us for basketball, thanks Noah Federson and thanks to Murray for being here all those years. Now your last year of eligibility, go get some money.
Yeah, and a lot of these coaches will act like they care about academics, and they likely don't. Mm-hmm. Well, this is the way you can act like is that you can't transfer until you finish your college. So getting into the calendar on the right side of that graphic there is, you touched on it. The transfer portal opens the day after the national championship game, and then if they want it to be a 10-day window, a 15-day window, whatever they want, they can do it that way. This is the one that is huge because this is why Lane Kiffin did what he did and left in the middle of his playoff run, because they needed to sign recruits and not be gutted for the next year. 1 signing day, and that's in February. We're not having a signing day in December so that coaches are getting fired mid-year. This would fix a lot with coaching changes in the calendar. And then April is spring football. That's not the biggest deal with the calendar stuff, and we mentioned fall camp. But Peter, I think the big thing here is making 1 signing day in the spring.
Yes, and I want to add to your point. I'm glad that if this gets instated, that we'll have the transfer portal opening the day after. This won't interfere with coaches having to leave their post at their former school and leaving that school in the dust and sending that school back so many years. Because as we touched upon it, like Lane Kiffin left Ole Miss in the middle of a playoff.
They could have won the whole thing.
They could have won the whole thing if he would have stayed. But instead he left, he dashed for LSU to make sure that he could lock up the recruits and everything. And then Ole Miss is like, hey, where are you going, man? Luckily they got to retain some of his staff, but it just screws everything up. And then once the portal closes, you cannot just dip or anything of that nature. You can't unenroll at your school. And then that 1 week in February, none of the teams are playing. It's that single day to be like, lock in the recruiting class.
Yep.
And then, I don't know if you're going to get into it, but April, that's when the spring football starts, which comes quick.
Yeah, it does.
And so that's why the offseason is never fast in college football, but this is a way that it could just expand.
Yeah, and I think one thing that coaches will push back on is we're seeing a trend. We saw it with Donovan Woolen is one that comes to mind, that they sign in December and then they graduate early to come and play spring football. Yes. This would eliminate that, which I don't think coaches would like. But, I mean, if we're going back to the way, at least partially the way things were, I think you need to have 1 signing day. Having a signing day in December, Chris Kleiman warned people when that happened here before he left, that this is going to screw a lot of things up. Another thing that screwed a lot of things up is NIL, and we're going to regulate it. We're going to try.
Yes.
So the first thing is tampering we're going to talk about. There was a huge story with Dabo Sweeney and Pete Golding with overplayer that was already signed at Clemson and then eventually it ended up at Ole Miss. But if it's discovered that a player has been contacted directly or a third party, which third party would be an agent, a high school coach, whatever, the penalty could be loss of scholarships, coaching bans, money loss, funding, whatever it is. That the NCAA needs to figure out a way to punish people that are tampering. That's the biggest thing.
And to go into that Clemson and Ole Miss situation, folks at home, they signed this play. I can't believe I'm using that language.
I know.
But they signed the linebacker from California to a 2-year, I believe it was over $1 million, close to $1 million. I think it was a $1.1 million deal. And it got to the point where he was taking 8 a.m. classes. He was enrolled in the university.
Yeah, he was in class.
He was literally in class, and he gets a call one day from his agent. He's like, Ole Miss is offering $1 million per year.
Yeah.
For 2 years. And Dabo was like, okay, we got you locked in, we got you signed and everything. Well, guess what? He reversed it. He's like, oh, no, I'm going to Ole Miss. I'm sorry, coach. And it's like, what do you mean? You were just at spring practice with us. You're enrolled at the university. And so it's going to help a lot of the blame. And we've even had a incident with Nathaniel Stanley. Like, it's not just those big schools getting like poached and everything. No, it's NDSU getting poached where it's like the last 12 hours, and it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to put my name on the portal and, oh, I have a do not contact tag.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you mean you have a do not contact tag? It makes no sense.
And that's a great example of transition to this bottom half of the tampering is that players are entering the portal blindly. Like you're not entering knowing that there's an offer out there. Because if you're getting offered, that's tampering and the school gets punished. The kid probably shouldn't unless he takes money. But there's not a known number. Like Nathaniel Stanley, for the example, like let's just say he got $500,000. We don't know what he got, but if somebody from Michigan called him or called his agent and said, if you enter the portal now, you're coming to Michigan for $500,000. You can't do that. You're going into the portal blindly. But a big thing about the money thing is compensation on the right side of this graphic here. So this one's a little controversial, but schools have to report to the NCAA all NIL deals, no under the table deals.
Yep.
And I think deals going on a yearly basis is a big thing here because, or they could be like a 3-year deal or whatever. But I think contracts have to be involved in this.
Yes, I believe that contract should be involved in this. My only thing that's kind of a struggle that Grant and Ethan and I, we all sat down was, what about these private institutions?
Yeah.
What about the likes of Northwestern, Vanderbilt, Notre Dame, Duke, like all these universities? Because a lot of their knowledge, it's not public.
Yeah.
But you're gonna at some point the NCAA doesn't want to do it, but you're gonna have to make these. I'm not even going to bother calling student athletes. You're going to have to make these athletes employees of the university because of how much money they're making. But like you said, for example, if Damari Wheeler-Thomas, goes to Boise State for, let's just say, $700,000, and NDSU gets like 10% of that cut, that's $70,000 towards another athlete at NDSU.
Yeah, you touched on that. It's like we're going to have a rule here where if a player enters the portal and goes to a new school, and obviously that money that they get would be reported. So if a player goes from, we're going to use an example, player 1 goes from NDSU to Alabama in football. If they got $500,000 in their contract, 15% of that goes to NDSU. So the Bison would receive $75,000. Can you imagine if a player is getting offered $200,000 to go to a new school, but the Bison say, we'll give you $75,000 to stay here for your last year. That's more incentivized than if they had $10,000. That's the big thing, is giving these small schools a chance by giving them compensation. And this thing at the bottom here, contracts got to be signed by the school and the player as a part of the NIL deal. But I think this would honestly get agents out of the way because the players don't want to give agents a cut.
Yeah, because it's kind of a golfer and a caddy. It's like you don't want to break up that purse so much.
Yep.
And then it's like there's so many examples of this happening all over the country, where just players are getting handfuls of dollars, and it's like, yeah, my agent takes 25%. It's like, your agent takes 25%. So, no, I think that, and it would also benefit the schools that kind of get poached.
Yes.
Where it's like,
how much money would the Bison have gotten this year?
Their roster would be equally and almost better because.
Yep.
I don't understand that people. I don't think people understand the amount that $100,000, $150,000 could do to an NIL fund for NDSU, because I've seen rumors float around that to get like an average player in the portal, it's over 6 figures.
It's ridiculous, and if let's just say if Gray Zabel would have left his last year, he's getting over $1 million. Well, the Bison would have gotten 100-some thousand out of it, and that would have gone towards another player.
It just makes you think, how much do you think Bo Johnson's making at Vanderbilt now?
It's got to be close to $1 million, you'd think.
Because All-American tackle.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Vanderbilt's paying a lot of change for him, so it'll just be very interesting to see how this could benefit funds, and if teams want to compete, that's how, and the bigger teams on a poach, that's how it's going to have to be like.
Yeah, so that's what we got on fixing college football. Let us know in the comments what you think. I think we did a pretty good job of covering all the topics that need to be fixed, but we're going to move into the last segment. It's hot takes. So hot takes that were right and wrong. Grant on March 18th, he said a team from the eastern side of the country wins the national title for a 28th straight year. That's a completion in our system.
it's actually astonishing that someone from the West Coast has not won.
Yeah, it is.
Anything.
I thought Arizona would do it.
Like Arizona, San Diego State, Gonzaga, like they have just not won.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the other completion is probably the easiest pick all year.
Mm-hmm.
UConn will beat Illinois in the Final Four. It's kind of a gimme pick, but try to get my completion percentage up.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. And then the one that Grant got wrong the same week that he made the other prediction, a freshman will be named the tournament's most outstanding player. If Duke wins the tournament, I think he's right on this. But
even Cole Pete too.
Yeah, and so it's technically Grant's week, but we're gonna flip flop the order. So I will be going this week for hot takes. All of them are football related. First one, NDSU will go 6-0 at home in 2026. I just think the home schedule is pretty easy. I think if they for sure get past that Jacksonville State one, they're going to have a shot to do this. That's a completion if it's correct. The second one, NDSU will wear the Harvest helmets 6+ times in 2026. This is one of the hotter takes I have. They've seemed, ever since Matt Entz left, it seems like they've worn them more and more. I think Polisek really likes them. The away games are going to help for this. And then I really like this one. NDSU will rush for 4,000 net or more net yards in 2026. This hasn't happened since 2021, where Cam Miller basically just handed off the whole year. And then my fourth one, NDSU is going to get a Power 4 game on the schedule by our final show in April of 2027. I think Matt Larson's already digging in the weeds trying to find a game to schedule, and maybe we can get Iowa again. That'd be sweet, as we see in this picture on the graphic. The fifth one, this one is, if I can nail this one, this would be the greatest hot take of all time. NDSU will get a home-and-home with James Madison scheduled by April of 2027. And to go into this one, a lot of the people that work at NDSU, like Todd Phillips and Matt Larson, have talked about, when they moved up, they wanted to get these rivalries back, like Georgia Southern, JMU. I think they're going to try to get this one done. I just don't know if it's going to get done by next year. But yeah, Peter, hammer away.
So my first thing I believe that, if they get past Jacksonville State, it will be a 6-0 streak at home. My question for you, Ibach, is what games will they wear the Harvest helmets for the 6 games?
I think I would not be shocked if they break them out for the opener. I think there's so much energy built for this game that I think they could do it. The away games, the 6 away games, I think they wear them for at least 4. I think they did last year. The away games, I think, is what's really going to help me here. But for the home ones, I think homecoming against Wyoming, they're going to. The last one, I think, Northern Illinois, that's when they'll wear the gold jerseys, which always comes with the Harvest helmet. Home games will be tough. I don't know when they'll wear them. They're kind of unpredictable now, but yeah, that's what I think.
You and I are kind of in a tussle right now because I predicted that Nathan Hayes will throw for over 3,000 yards. And I could definitely see, as much as we've harped on, this running back room will be outstanding in the Mountain West, because to my likes and knowledge, as I'm looking at the statistics and everything, the Mountain West, they do not like to play defense, and they are not that physical inside.
Yep.
So I could definitely see that happening. I'm going to go, that would be awesome if NDSU gets a home-and-home schedule with JMU. I definitely could see that happening, and them coming to the Dome and we going down, and NDSU going down there, but I think Matt Larson is having the time of his life trying to schedule a Power 4. Yeah. I think he has his little folder and he's calling everybody trying to get a game scheduled, because they would sell out that game.
Yeah,
even if they went on the road to a Power 4 game, that game would be sold out because NDSU travels so well, and the fans are like, hey, NDSU's playing Purdue, NDSU's playing Rutgers, NDSU's playing a lot of those huge schools. I could definitely see NDSU facing a lower Big Ten team and going there and beating them. Like, that would be incredible. Could you imagine NDSU going down south, or going to or playing Nebraska?
Yeah, that would be packed.
That would be quite remarkable, because UND's got to play at Nebraska, and I might be a little selfish here, but I don't want a Kansas game. I don't want a Kansas State game. I don't want to get
as long as Gene Taylor's at Kansas State, they ain't scheduling NDSU.
Yeah, I would rather want I would rather prefer a Nebraska, another Iowa type of level performance. This might sound super harsh, but a respectable college football program.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun to see what they do. I think they're for sure gonna get someone on the schedule. I think fans need to be cautious because I think that 26 and 27 the schedule might not be what they want. But I'm telling you, once this thing gets going, there's gonna be some really fun games at the Fargo and some destination games down the road. But
and it's already in the Mountain West. There's destination.
Yeah, there's some pretty good destinations there. So a little preview of the rest of the semester as the school year winds down here. So we got 4 shows left after this week. This coming next week this is gonna be a fun one. Top 100 players in the FCS era for NDSU. We're gonna break down that of our list, and then the week after that will be a mock draft show, maybe some trivia mixed in there, and then second to last one. This is the one I'm most excited about. Is our college football deep dive, our top 25s.
It's gonna be so good.
Yeah, national championship picks, predictions, everything. We're gonna go deep into the weeds.
It's gonna be awesome because we get to use the bracket.
Yep.
And everything.
But then the final show kind of similar, but it's based all on NDSU. Hopefully we can get a interview with a player and maybe Coach Polasek. That's gonna be a fun one too.
This is a little humor. Watching that next week, that 100 players. I mean, I opened up the Google Doc, I believe a day ago, and I felt like that meme where the guy's blowing the dust off the book where I saw some of those players. But no, it's gonna be a super adventurous ride the next 4 weeks. But I'd like to take it away.
Yeah, and then one last thing is that after that'll be next fall. We're gonna be covering FBS football, so it's gonna be a very fun next few months here, especially these last 4 weeks as we wind down. But that's going to do it from the Bison Overtime Show. Thanks for watching. From the guys in the back, that's Peter. I'm Ethan. Horns up. Go Bison.
That's a big, oh my gosh, dude.